back again. I'm just going to have a discussion. It's a really frank discussion here. Right? We know Greens are against the card. And ALP has stood up and said they're going to stop the card. Right? They're also going to fight to save Medicare, NDIS. Right? And with the help of the Greens, they will get a lot of changes done. They will get a lot of changes done if they get the chance. But they won't get the chance if the so-called left keep undermining everybody and keep whinging and keep carrying on. Oh, but the Labor did this and Labor did that. We haven't got any more fucking time to worry about that. And if I swear in this, too bad. We cannot afford another term of LNP government. We will not have a healthcare system left. Right? We cannot afford to become Little America. Right? Go and Google how people in America live on the streets when they work 2 and 3 and 4 jobs. Or they work for tips. Or there's one guy who's doing Uber Eats and he got a $1.19 tip and all he got paid for his delivery was $2. Right? Because the gig economy doesn't pay any wages. Do you want that for your kids? Do you want that in this country? We've got too much of it already. We've got too many people out there in the cold right now. It's like 5 degrees here. I don't know what it is in Melbourne. It'd be minus degrees. And we have people sleeping on the streets. We have people who are working in Sydney who live on the streets. Do we want that? Right? Now I'm going to say it all the way along this fight against the card. We've been stuck between the ALP and the Greens. And it's been The common enemy is LNP and One Nation. But you're too busy Right? It's ridiculous. Quit it. Quit undermining everything. Because we've slogged our guts out here, right? And SN7's been on Twitter. We've done everything we can for 6 years. Every day of the week for 6 years. Right? Fighting to stop this card. Fighting to get politicians to listen. Okay? And the LP have listened. Yes, it took a little while, but they did get there. And they voted against the card for Hinkler, and they voted against the card for Kalgoorlie, and they voted against the card in the whole caucus. No CDC as from December, when they voted last year. The Greens' position has always been the same. No card. Okay? So there's no problem with their opposition. We've always known that we've always had their support against the card. But it took work, and it took you guys that support us and the card holders telling us their stories, right? To be able to educate Labor as to what was going on. Because the government wasn't telling them the truth in the Parliament. The government wasn't telling Jackie Lambie the truth. When I met Jackie Lambie in Hervey Bay, I had to give her a copy of the Hindu Terms and Conditions booklet because the government never did. She was all eyes on that. Oh, can I have that? You know? Yeah, because the government hasn't been honest with Labor or the crossbenchers. And forget Pauline, because she's just cloth head. Do you know what I mean? She won't be told the truth. She don't want to hear it. But what's giving me the gripes at the moment is the sniping. Oh, but Labor voted in 2016 and Labor voted to extend it. They got wedged between a rock and a hard place. And yet, they should have demanded that the bill be split at the time and not allow the income management FRC bill for funding be merged with the cashless debit card bill. But that's in the past. We're fighting for today, for an election that's coming sometime this year or early next year. We're fighting to make sure we get a change of government. Right? And it's about time everybody stop the nitpicking and stop that nit. Because while you're busy nit yourself, right, and undermining each other's parties and playing politics, right, One Nation and the LNP are busy screwing this country over and running us straight into a third world country. Selling us out, selling our kids off, right, treating us like subhumans, right, kicking the boot into good people, vilifying the poor, vilifying people on Social Security. Look at the way they treat the refugees. Look at the way they treat little kids. right? Don't forget, because, look at the way they treat our First Nations people. We have 8,500 non-Indigenous people about to be on the card in Hinkler, right? And we've got all up 13,000 people across the country right now on this damn card. And we've got Labor standing up saying they will scrap it at the next election, and they will establish a federal ICAC, and they will investigate into the company, right? It's taken 6 years of bloody hard work, but they got there, and they're doing it. But they've got to be given the chance to do it. And all I'm seeing is, oh, but you can't trust Labor. They haven't been in government for the last 8 years, right? And over the last 70 years, how many years have they actually been in government to get to do much? We're in $1 trillion worth of debt thanks to the LNP. Who to? I don't really know, because we have a sovereign currency, but anyway, you know what I mean? This has nothing to do with the UN Great Reset agenda. I'm sick of all that crap, because the UN is against the cashless debit card, and they've been here and they've told the government this is not right. Okay? But I'm really frustrated when my offsider is working her ass off and she's attacked on Twitter by people who are supposed to be left. Whatever left is anyway, because I hate this left and right and crap like that. I'm a humanist. I care about people. And yet certain people keep playing politics. Enough of the frigging politics. This is about the humanity. This is about the people. Focus on which party is going to be best for the people. At the moment, ALP are the only hope of changing any damn thing. And they're not perfect. But to have the Greens in the Senate backing up, making sure that ALP keep their promises, making sure that policies can get passed. It's as simple as that. Get ALP into government. Make sure the Greens have got enough in the Senate to make sure that there's a good Senate. And get rid of One Nation and the Nazis of this LNP government. The cruelty, the Duttons, the Mahalia Cashers, the whole lot of them. The Aaron Rustons, all of them. Get rid of them. Think about it this way. What improvements have they made to your family's life since they got in? Right? ALP are standing up going, we will stop the card dead in its tracks. Which means 13,000 people get their freedom back. Get their lives back. Right? People on the basics card will get a choice. Maybe even a different system. They'll get a choice. So they get their freedoms back too. Save our Medicare. How many people have died waiting for in-home care? How many people have died on this government's watch? Remember the pink bat saga, where 4 people died because of dodgy contract employers? Remember that brought the Labor government down, and there was a Royal Commission and it was everything, and LNP hung on to it for years. Where's the outrage over 2,030 people dead from robo-debt, 90 people dead from cashless debit cards, 16,000 people died waiting for in-home care, elderly care? Where's the outrage? Right? Stop undermining. If you've got doubts about the Labor Party, we haven't got time for doubts anymore. We don't have that luxury, right? Because we are at a crossroads in time. There's too much on the line to lose, right, for the people of this country. So we must change government for the better. And the minor parties can't do it, right? Sorry, but that's the truth. But what the minor parties do, if you're careful, can make sure that Labor do everything we need and what the people need. And it's not about me being pro-Labor. I've had to sit between these two parties for 6 years, watch them play ping pong and snipe at each other rather than work together. And it's frustrating because one of the first things I said when I took this fight on the ground in Hinkler, and I said it to both of them, right, is you have to put your politics aside and you have to stand, the three of us, in these public meetings, right, and talk to the people as a community, because this is a community issue. This is about the people in the community, not the politics of each party. And you know what? My state representatives here did that. They did it. Rachel Seaward came and we had a public meeting, and Adrian Tantari came to that public meeting, and he's now the state member for the ALP in Hervey Bay. And he stood up at that meeting with Rachel and spoke to the community with me. So it can be done. Right, but all these Green supporters out there, stop undermining the bloody fight. Right? We wanted Medicare in place. We want it kept in place. We want it expanded. It needs to cover dental and optical. That's logical. Everybody would want that. Right? Stop undermining each other. Because while you're doing that, LNP and One Nation sit back going, ha ha ha, we'll just keep writing off more legislation. We'll just keep passing more shit laws. We'll just undermine your human rights. We'll just take away everything that your grandparents worked for. You know what I mean? And I'm over it. I'm really over it. I've just watched SN7 get attacked on Twitter, being accused of supporting the card, even, because somebody can't trust Labor to do the right thing. I'm sorry, they've come out and said it, and they haven't said it lightly. If you look on the social media, every one of their MPs is standing up against it, right? Everything that's ever been done for the betterment of Australian people, public services, public schools, access to medical, right? Your community services, your domestic violence services, your shelters, your charities, everything, right? Stable social security once upon a time. Everything was put in place by Labor and has been nibbled away and white-anted by LNP's privatisation and destruction and defunding and breaking it all, right? So they can make money for their mates. Okay? I have so much admiration for Rachel Seaward, you don't know. And it pains me. Because personally, I'd love to see, she's retiring at the next election, which is such a shame. It's going to be a huge loss because she has been such a fighter for people. Irrespective of who I would like to vote for, I will be voting. ALP 1, Greens 2. Right? If I fill out that big Senate paper, be Greens. And a couple of the progressives that I will be supporting. And ALP and One Nation, right? And people like the ones I don't think I trust. People like New Liberal and things like that. They're claiming to be so progressive, but I don't trust them. I see them like the Brexit Party in the UK. That's my opinion. All right? Just to take like votes away from Labor so they can't get a majority. All right? This is a crossroads in our history. You either want a country that survives or you just want the dog eat dog. Do you want your kids to go to university? Do you want your kids to go to a primary school and be able to afford it? Do you want your teenagers, your grandparents to be on cashless debit cards? Do you want to have to pay for health fully, as in fully? And if you can't afford to pay for private healthcare and out-of-pocket expenses, right? Do you want that for your kids? I don't. I want my daughter that if anything happens, she can go into a hospital and I don't have to worry about I couldn't even go bankrupt. I've got nothing to go bankrupt with. I've got nothing to sell. And if you're on a cashless debit card, you can't even take out a loan. All right? Everybody needs to stay focused. Because we need to change the government. All right? We're fucked if we don't. This country goes to hell. All right? Goes down the American path. All right? And people like Pauline Hanson, oh, she wants it like America, where you only get 6 months Social Security and then that's it. You're out of your house and you're on the street, okay? No matter what. No matter how many years you worked or how hard you worked or what happens to you. This is not a future. That's not a future. Look at what they've wrecked. Look at what they've undone. Is that a future for your kids? For my kid? You know? I don't want that. I don't want what's been going on. So we need to stick to our guns. That's all I'm saying. Right? We've slugged our guts out. And, you know, we need to fix it. The only way to fix it is to get right behind ALP and give them a chance. And somebody keeps messaging me. Hang on. Yeah, so, I don't know. I'm not, you know, I don't want to see this country go any further down the toilet. The greed, the hate, the selfishness, the nastiness, the individualism, the me. I'm sick to death of it all. The bigotry, the racism. Right? And who's been setting the examples for all of that? Scott Morrison. You know? Because, yeah, we have the cruelest pack of bastards we've ever had in government. Who treats a 3-year-old like they're treating the Tamil family's 3-year-old? Who blocks them from getting medical care for 10 days? What sort of inhumane thing is that? But then again, you look at the deaths in custody, the way they treat our First Nations peoples. All right? We have a lot to change. You know? And nothing's going to change until we make it change. People have to really start thinking. Did your wages go up under the LNP in the last 8 years? No. Did you know that the cost of food's gone up 61% since Abbott got in 2013? 61% the cost of food's gone up. My pension didn't go up 61%. Did your wages go up 61%? No. They took away your penalty rates. They won't give you a 3.5% pay rise. Right? They undermine the unions. So to me, it's what benefit to the average worker is the LNP? Because if you are not a millionaire, they're not interested in you. In fact, they're not even really interested in the millionaires. Right? Because they've always played this game. And I'll see if I can find it. It's a skit that the two Ronnies did. I think it was. And John Cleese was the tall guy. He was the elite. Right? And one Ronnie was the middle class. And the little Ronnie was the lower class. And the skit is the little one looking up at the middle class. And the middle class looking down at the little one. And looking up at the big one because he wants to be what he is. Right? And the big one turning around and saying that the little one's the problem. So they're taking all their money. Right? making the one in the middle class, hate the little one. Meanwhile, the one at the top goes, I don't have any money. I take his money from the middle class. It's a very, very poignant skit from 50 years ago of how Tories operate. Okay? And we have a bunch of narcissistic Tories here now. The LNP. I'm angry. I don't normally swear, but I'm angry after what I just saw on Twitter, and I went in and had my say as well. And I swore at the person as well. Because it's not fair. Right? And I've put up with lots of crap over the last 5 years. Oh, you're a Labour stooge, blah, blah, blah. No. I've had to sit between these two parties and put up with them nitpicking. And it's driven me insane. It's like, for God's sakes, grow the fuck up. The enemy is over there in front of you, not each other. Sorry. Excuse my F-bombs, excuse my French, but the reality comes down to it for the majority of the Australian public. We cannot risk another LNP government. We cannot risk, bullshit from Clive Palmer or any new start-up parties that are going to leak votes away from Labor, you know what I mean? Scott Barnett says to me, you're a real progressive. You'll want the LNP gone. Undermining Labor feeds the Liberal narrative. Of course it does. Of course it does. Undermining the opposition. Of course it does. Why do you think they shut down the opposition every minute they can in Parliament? Mr. Speaker, I move that the member no longer be heard. Right? They're overusing and over-abusing, right, a little thing that was found that is actually not even relevant to our Parliament of these days. If you want to know the history of that, I move that the member no longer be heard. It comes from the days when we had the Westminster system. And under the Westminster system, you put up a policy, or you might want to put up a policy, and the other members might not want that policy to go up. So they'll filibuster around another policy until the time expires for that bill to be able to put up, and it gets lost. And they do it all the time in the House of Commons, in the British Parliament. They filibuster and filibuster and filibuster until a time passes so that a legislation or, a policy can't be moved. Okay? So to stop that from happening, that's where it came from. Right? I move the member no longer be heard. And they have time limits now. And members can speak for 1 minute, 4 minutes, and about 15 minutes. So there's no need to use that thing. But this government's using it to shut down opposition. They use it to shut down debate. They use it to stop the opposition from holding them account. They won't answer questions. They beat around the bush. Right? Meanwhile, they're busy doing all this sleazy shit and covering everybody's asses in their books, and all the cover-ups that they're doing. People need to have a little bit of faith this time, because this country's so damn broken, we don't have a choice. 47,000 homeless people just in Queensland. NRAS housing just finished. 10,000 people looking for homes now in Queensland that were in NRAS housing. Okay? 4,000 people in South Australia. I'm not sure about the whole quantity across the whole country, but it's a lot. We can't afford an LNP government who doesn't care about the people, doesn't care about families living in the streets, cuts federal funding for the states for housing, and then people like Keith Pitt stand up and blame our Labor government here and say it's their fault. Or worse still, he actually blamed the Hervey Bay state member, Adrian Tantari, for the housing crisis in Hinkler, in Bundaberg. It was the LNP federal government that cut the housing budget, cut the funds, $44 million. Poof, gone. Shut down emergency funding for emergency housing rental 3 weeks before the card rolled out, knowing damn well that the card doesn't pay rents properly and leaves people vulnerable. We can't have any more of that. Meanwhile, their mates, oil and gas are getting $19,000 a minute. Whether it's been subsidies or whether it be in cash or by not paying any taxes, they're getting $19,000 a minute. A minute. We've got half the population doesn't even get that for a year to live on, whether you're working or not. We've got a country of the working poor. Must be the Walking Dead the way it's going. I'm angry, okay? Because it's about time the Greens, ALP, and the undecided started getting their thoughts together and realised the enemy is the LNP, One Nation, and anything that's in between that you don't trust that might give their votes to them, right? It's not just my future on the line. It's my kids' future on the line. It's the future of my possible grandchildren on the line here, and yours too. Oh, of course. What about if you've got elderly people? I don't want to go in a nursing home under these conditions, do you? Do you think I'd want to be shoved in a nursing home when I get old and be subject to sexual abuse, maggots, abuse, injuries, starvation? Fuck that. Do any of you want that for the future? No. We're all going to get old eventually. We're not all millionaires. I want to know that if I need to go into hospital for something, I don't get turned away because I'm poor. Or get told, no, we can't do that procedure on you anymore. But I used to do it 20 years ago and save people like my mum. See, I come from the UK. We had fantastic NHS. And we had free dental back then too. They've even eroded that over there. My mum had open heart surgery in the London Heart Hospital in 1975. Experimental surgery. They used pig heart valves for the first time. Gave my mum an extra 15 years on life. And then she had the same operation done here again at the Royal Adelaide Hospital in South Australia. They gave her another 20 years on life. Under this government, she wouldn't even get through the bloody door. They just let her die. You know what I mean? Cost too much. She wouldn't be able to afford the money. How much is open heart surgery these days to fix 4 leaking heart valves? Who knows? A lot more than the $150,000 it was in 1987. My mum didn't have to pay a penny for it. Right? But I had my mum for an extra 20 years. Thank you very much to our health service. Right? And the only reason why I didn't have her longer is she knocked back a 3rd operation. She'd had enough. Right? And it's ironic that she told me that at the end of November 2007 and she died in January 2008. She'd had enough. 68 years of age and she was gone. But she couldn't go through a 3rd op, but it was on offer. But these days, it's not even on offer. It's not even on offer. It's the bullshit. You know, I met a guy who's on a disability support pension. He's got 1 leaking heart valve. Bloody cardiologist he had up here turned around and said, oh, we're not going to operate. We're not going to fix it. You've got a year to live. They can let him drown in his own lungs. Wow. How nice is that? We don't want that. We want our health service properly funded. We want our schools properly funded. Not the private schools getting their orchestra pits and their swimming pools and their kids having their overseas friggin' excursions when our kids can't even have an excursion. Right? I don't want to see our public schools where most of my daughter's high school and primary school life, we had to take our own paper. And you had to pay for printing because the school couldn't afford it. It's bullshit. Right? We can't afford this. We can't afford to lose what we've got, what's little's left in tatters. Right? We need to rebuild. We need to change the government. And only you out there can do that. Right? And if you're well enough off that none of these things impact your life, then good for you. But consider your next door neighbour, okay, whose life might not be so good, right? Simple as that, you know. Anyway, excuse my swearing. I just got really angry tonight. And I needed to let people know. We have worked our asses off. And so has Amanda for 6 years. And so has my team. In all different ways. Alright? And when we found out that Labor caucus had voted to stop the card, it was like, yay! It took 6 years, but they did it. We did it. You did it. We did it. You know what I mean? All the people behind the scenes, the people from Accountable Income Management Network, the university lecturers. It took 6 years. Let's not lose it now. All right? Let's not lose the one chance. One chance to give our kids a future, all right? To improve the situations for our people on NDIS and disability. I don't qualify for NDIS. I have to rely on a friend who'll come and do all the stuff for me. My gardens, my floors, the things I can no longer do. Because when NDIS rolled into my community, I did have a little bit of help. But I lost it. It went. You know what I mean? I do need a holiday, but I'm not going to get one for a while. Oh dear, and I wouldn't know what to do on a holiday because I've never had one. Never been able to afford a holiday, never been on a holiday, even when, even when I worked. Never had a holiday. What's a holiday? Something that I want my daughter to be able to have, right, in the future, from being able to work in a job where she gets paid good wages and holiday pay as sickness benefits. All right, where she can join a union that has the freedom to be able to look after her rights. Under an LNP government, she wouldn't get that. You know what I mean? They will whittle away and undermine because they just want everybody to work for $2 an hour like Gina Reinhardt wants. Okay? God, the federal government can't even be bothered to make wage theft illegal. They pat the crooks on the back. Right? And let's not go down the sleaze lane here as well. Who, in any good conscience, could vote for a party that uses its prayer room? Yeah, I'm not even going to go there. You know what I mean? The thought of what was going on in that prayer room. A prayer room. I'm not even religious. How dare somebody desecrate a prayer room, for God's sakes? Ugh. You know, and I'm not even religious. I have more respect. Oh, I have more respect in my pinky than these people do. All right? They know nothing of morality. They certainly don't have any compassion or empathy or care. Because they're all right, mate. They're wealthy beyond. They can't envision what it's like for somebody on less than $10,000 a year to live on. I've got a card holder who's doing her end of year statement, and her payments are not even $10,000 for the year, and they're trying to crucify her. You know, and the woman on the phone at Centrelink says, "Oh, you need to estimate 20 grand. How can you live on 20 grand? Well, go and ask everybody on a job seeker, how can they live on 15? Go and ask everybody who's on youth allowance if they can live on 8. Right? Or less. Oh, seriously. Oh. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to say goodnight. Keep up the fight, guys. And when people go, oh, I don't trust Labor, well, just remind them, what has LNP done for you? Right? How have your wages coped? Cost of living, cost of food, cost, even the cost of cigarettes. Poor people could have a smoke. You know, they were between $7 and $10 a packet when this mob came to power. Now they're what, $27 to $50 a packet? It's ridiculous. Tax, money, money, money. They've been scraping money out of everything. robbing the poor at every level, undermining every program for the poor, defunding it. Where's the money going? Because it's just been a cash grab. Where's the money going? Water rorts. All this money they've been wasting. Oh, the list is too big, isn't it? Change the government, let's start fresh, and let's try and get things sorted out for the Australian people. That's all I can say. Night, people. See ya.